The experiment that changed everything. Zilara adjusted her lab coat and took a deep breath. She was standing inside a human laboratory, surrounded by strange metal machines, blinking lights, and the faint hum of technology. The place smelled like chemicals and old books, a mix of knowledge and danger. Across the room, Dr. Ryan Carter, a human scientist, was carefully measuring a bright blue liquid into a glass. He glanced at her and smiled. "All right, Zilara, are you ready for the experiment?" Zilara crossed her arms. "Of course. Varan bodies are far stronger than human bodies. Your nutrient drink will have no effect on me." Ryan smirked. "We'll see about that." She watched as he placed the glass in front of her. The liquid shimmered, almost glowing under the lab lights. Zilara hesitated for only a moment before picking it up. "I hope this isn't some human trick," she muttered. Ryan chuckled. "No tricks. It's just a concentrated form of Earth's best nutrients, designed to improve strength, focus, and energy levels. Perfect for space travelers." Zilara raised an eyebrow. Humans are always so dramatic about everything. Then, without another word, she tilted her head back and drank. The liquid was cold and smooth, almost sweet. It didn't taste bad. In fact, it was surprisingly pleasant. She set the empty glass down with a small clink and folded her arms. "There. Done." Nothing happened. Ryan shrugged. "It takes a few minutes to." Suddenly, Zilara's eyes widened. A strange warmth spread through her chest and up to her head. It was like a slow wave of heat, starting deep inside and rushing outward. She felt tingly, like her skin was waking up after a long sleep. Ryan noticed immediately. "Are you okay?" Zilara frowned. She felt different, not in a painful way, but in a way that made her very uncomfortable. She placed a hand on her forehead. "I feel warm, too warm." Ryan grabbed a notepad and started writing. "Interesting. Any dizziness? Nausea?" Zilara shook her head, but then she felt it. A strange pressure on the sides of her head. She touched her temples, and then froze. Her fingers pressed against something soft, and larger than before. Her heart pounded as realization hit her. No, 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 this is not happening. Ryan noticed her panicked expression. What's wrong?" Zilara spun around and grabbed a nearby mirror. The reflection staring back at her was not the same as before. Her coconuts had grown. The two gland-like structures on the sides of her head, something all Varans had doubled in size. They looked around her, fuller and far too noticeable. She let out a sharp gasp. "What did you do to me?" Ryan blinked in shock. "Whoa, okay, I definitely didn't expect that." Zilara's hands shook as she touched them again. This was bad. Very bad. Varans didn't talk about their coconuts in public. It was considered private, almost sacred in their culture. The fact that hers had suddenly supersized made it look like she was overly fertile. She whipped around to face Ryan, her eyes full of panic. "This is your fault. Your human drink did this." Ryan looked completely fascinated. "I mean, scientifically speaking, this is incredible." Zilara glared. "This is not incredible. This is a disaster." She started pacing back and forth, her mind racing. What if the Varan Council found out? They would think she was ready for mating, which was the most embarrassing thing possible. Ryan, meanwhile, was writing notes. So, human nutrients interact with Varan biology in unexpected ways. Maybe it boosted certain hormone production. Zilara grabbed him by the collar. "Stop being a scientist for 1 second and fix this." Ryan gulped. Okay. Let me think." He glanced at the bottle. "Maybe we can reverse it, if we figure out what part of the formula did this." But before he could finish, the lab's emergency alarm blared. "VEP, VEP, BEP." Zilara and Ryan both froze. A robotic voice echoed through the lab. Attention. Varen Council members arriving for inspection. All personnel remain in place. Solara's heart stopped. The council was coming. She looked at Ryan in sheer panic. I cannot be seen like this. If they notice my condition, I'll be forced into a bonding ceremony. Ryan frowned. Oh, what now? Solara's eyes darted around the room, looking for an escape. There's no time to explain. Just Heidi me. Ryan's eyes widened. Where? Solara's enlarged coconuts wobbled slightly as she turned to him with a desperate glare. I don't know. Just do something. The door hissed open. A tall Varen official stepped inside. His sharp yellow eyes scanned the room. His voice was cold and commanding. Dr. Solara, the council requires your presence. Immediately. Solara gulped. Ryan slowly turned to her and whispered under his breath. Good luck. What did you do to me, human? Solara's heart pounded in her chest as she stared at the council official standing in the doorway. His yellow eyes narrowed, scanning the room with suspicion. Dr. Solara, he repeated, you are required for immediate inspection. Her hands clenched into fists. This was bad. Worse than bad. It was a catastrophe. Her coconuts, the two gland-like structures on the sides of her head, were now twice their normal size, and the council would definitely notice. To the Varen people, enlarged coconuts meant high fertility. It was a sacred biological signal that she was in peak bonding condition. And in Varen culture, if a female was found to be in peak bonding, she would be immediately assigned a mate. Solara's breathing quickened. She had dedicated her life to science, not some ridiculous ancient tradition. She wasn't ready for bonding. She didn't even like the males on the council. Most of them were dry, serious, and way too obsessed with honor codes. She had to get out of this. Ran, who had been frozen in place, slowly leaned toward her and whispered, Okay, don't panic, but I think they're gonna notice. Solara resisted the urge to punch him. Of course they were going to notice. Her coconuts were practically screaming fertility at this point. The council official stepped further into the room, his eyes darting between her and Ryan. Is there a problem, Dr. Solara? She forced a very stiff smile. No problem at all. Just conducting some experiments. The official's gaze lingered on Ryan. You are the human scientist, Dr. Carter, correct? Ryan gave a nervous chuckle. That's me. The official's expression remained icy cold. I see. Human research on Varen biology is still under review by the council. What exactly were you two experimenting on? Ryan opened his mouth to answer, but Solara slapped a hand over his lips before he could say something incredibly stupid. Oh, nothing important, she said quickly. Just a small dietary test. Absolutely no side effects. Ryan mumbled something against her palm that sounded suspiciously like liar. The official's eyes narrowed further. Then, before she could stop him, he tilted his head slightly, and his nostrils flared. Solara's stomach dropped. Oh no. The council members had heightened senses. They could pick up pheromones, and her body was probably leaking them like crazy right now. The official took another step closer. I detect something unusual. Solara gulped. It's the human. Humans have a very strange scent. Ryan raised an eyebrow. Excuse me. The official ignored him and stared directly at Solara. You smell different. Solara's mind raced. She had to distract him fast. She faked a dramatic cough and stumbled slightly, pressing a hand to her forehead. Ah, yes. I have been feeling unwell. Perhaps a mild reaction to the human's atmosphere. I think I need to. She collapsed onto a nearby chair, dramatically swooning. Ryan gave her an incredulous look. The official frowned, his suspicion deepening. You require a medical scan. Solara froze. Oh no, a scan would reveal everything. She forced another weak cough. That's not necessary. I just need rest. But the official was already turning toward the door. I will summon the medical team. Panic shot through her. Think, think, think. Ryan suddenly stepped forward. Wait. Both Zilara and the official turned to look at him. Ryan gave his best confident scientist smile. Before you do that, wouldn't it be wise to run a preliminary test? Just a simple, non-invasive scan first. No need to waste the medical team's time if it's just mild exhaustion. Right. Zilara blinked. That was actually smart. The official hesitated. A preliminary scan. Ryan nodded enthusiastically. Exactly. I can handle it right here in the lab. 5 minutes, tops. The official considered this, then gave a slow nod. Very well. Proceed. Zilara's relief was short-lived. Ryan turned back to her, grabbed a scanning device, and muttered under his breath, "You better hope I can fake this scan, because we are screwed." She gave him a look of absolute murder. Ryan activated the device and pretended to examine the screen. Fascinating. It appears that Dr. Zilara is experiencing. He hesitated, then gave the official a bright, confident smile. A mild nutrient imbalance, a totally normal reaction to Earth-based dietary compounds. Zilara wanted to die. That was the worst fake diagnosis she had ever heard. The official narrowed his eyes. Nutrient imbalance. Ryan nodded vigorously. Yes, should clear up in a few hours. No need for medical intervention. In fact, bed rest is the best treatment. She should be left alone for the next 12 hours. Zilara bit her lip to keep from screaming. The official's gaze lingered on her for a long moment. Then, finally, he gave a curt nod. Very well, but the council will check again in 12 hours. Zilara's stomach plummeted. That was not enough time to fix this. The official turned on his heel and strode toward the door. As he exited, he paused and glanced back at Zilara. Remember, Dr. Zilara, if anything unusual is detected in your next scan, the council will act accordingly. With that, he left. The door hissed shut behind him. The second he was gone, Zilara let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Then she turned on Ryan and punched him in the arm. Mild nutrient imbalance. That was your best excuse. Ryan rubbed his arm. Hey, it worked, didn't it? She groaned and dropped her head into her hands. The council will check again in 12 hours. If my coconuts are still like this, I am doomed. Ryan scratched his chin. Okay, new plan. We need to figure out how to reverse this before they come back. Zilara lifted her head and glared. Yes, obviously. That is what I have been saying. Ryan grinned. Great. Then let's science our way out of this. Zilara groaned again. She had no choice but to trust the human now. Because if they failed, she would be forced into a lifelong bonding ceremony before the next sunrise. Hide, human. Zilara paced back and forth in the lab, her oversized coconuts wobbling slightly with each step. It was infuriating. How did this happen? How did a simple human drink cause this? She snapped, throwing her hands up. Ryan leaned against the counter, rubbing his chin like this was just another fun science puzzle. Well, based on your reaction, I'd say human nutrients triggered an overactive hormonal response in your body. Basically, your biology liked the nutrients a little too much. Zilara stopped pacing and glared at him. Fix it. Ryan held up his hands. I'm working on it, but I need more data before I can. BEP, BEP. A warning alarm blared through the lab, making both of them jump. Security override in progress. Council inspection team arriving in 5 minutes. Zilara felt her blood run cold. She turned to Ryan, her voice low and urgent. They're coming back. 5 minutes. If they see me like this, I'll be sent to a bonding ceremony by nightfall. Ryan blinked. Wait, seriously. They'd just force you to. Yes, because to them, I now look like I'm at my peak fertility. Ryan scratched the back of his neck. Wow. That's Intense. Zilara grabbed his collar. This is not a time for human commentary. You need to hide. Ryan's eyes darted around the room. Where? She pushed him toward a tall metal storage unit. Get in there. Ryan hesitated. Wait. What if I suffocate? Zilara scowled. You'll be fine. Humans breathe all the time. He narrowed his eyes. That's not how that works. But before he could argue further, the door panel beeped, signaling that the security override was almost complete. Zilara shoved him inside, slammed the door shut, and whirled around just in time to see the lab doors slide open. 3 council inspectors stepped inside, their sharp yellow eyes scanning the room like predatory birds. The lead inspector, a tall and broad Varan named Commander Varish, locked eyes with Zilara. You were told to rest, he said coolly. Zilara forced a very unconvincing smile. Yes. And I did. I feel much better now. No need for another scan. Varish's gaze lowered slightly, as if assessing her. Zilara tried not to flinch. Please don't notice. Please don't notice. One of the other inspectors, a sharp-eyed female named Sayla, took a step forward and sniffed the air. Zilara's stomach dropped. Something is off, Sayla murmured. Varish narrowed his eyes. We detected a chemical reaction in your last scan. The council demands a follow-up. Zilara's throat went dry. That's really not. But before she could finish, Varish had already turned to one of the other inspectors. Run a full-body scan. Zilara's mind went blank. A full-body scan. That would instantly expose the size increase. Her heart pounded. She had seconds to think of something. She faked a sudden gasp and stumbled backward. Oh no. I feel faint. Ryan, still hidden in the storage unit, facepalmed silently. Varish raised an eyebrow. Faint. Zilara dramatically fell onto a chair. Yes, I think the human nutrients made me dizzy. Sayla tilted her head. I thought you said you were feeling better. Zilara forced out a weak cough. Temporary improvement. But now, it's hitting me again. So much dizziness. Varish studied her for a long, uncomfortable moment. Then he gestured to Sayla. Bring the scanner. Zilara's mind screamed. No and no. Her eyes darted to Ryan's hiding place. If they found her condition, the first thing they'd ask would be what caused it, and that would lead them straight to the human. She needed a distraction. Fast. Crash. The storage unit shook violently, and a muffled oof came from inside. Varish and Sayla immediately turned toward the noise. Zilara's stomach plummeted. Sayla narrowed her eyes at the storage unit. What was that? Zilara let out a very unconvincing laugh. Aha, that? Just some unstable equipment. Happens all the time. Sayla took a step toward the unit. Zilara's brain went into overdrive. Think. Then she did something she would never live down. She grabbed a nearby metal tray and slammed it against her own coconuts. Ow! She shouted dramatically, clutching her head. My coconuts! Ah! Ryan, still hidden, choked back laughter. Varish and Sayla both jerked back in surprise. Sayla's expression turned concerned. You injured yourself. Zilara nodded furiously. Yes, the human drink made my balance unstable, and I tripped over. Science. Varish looked at her skeptically, but Sayla turned to him and murmured, if she is suffering from dizziness and self-inflicted injury, a scan may not be necessary. It may pass naturally. Varish let out a low hum of consideration. Zilara held her breath. Finally, he gave a curt nod. Very well. But if there is any further instability, the council will intervene. He gestured toward the other inspectors. We're done here. Zilara almost collapsed from relief. The 3 inspectors turned and left. The doors hissed shut. For a full 3 seconds, Zilara sat in silence, her heart pounding. Then, slowly, the storage unit creaked open. Ryan peeked out with the biggest grin on his face. "Did you seriously just smash yourself in the head to get out of that?" Zilara glared. "Shut up." Ryan burst into laughter. She groaned, rubbing her head. "Ow. I swear, if this doesn't go back to normal soon, I'm going to punch you into another dimension." Ryan wiped a tear from his eye. "Totally fair. But first, let's actually fix this." Zilara sighed. He was right. They only had a few more hours before the council checked again. And next time, there would be no escaping. The unthinkable happens. Zilara slumped against the lab counter, her head throbbing, not just from stress, but also from the self-inflicted coconut injury she had used to distract the council inspectors. Ryan, still grinning like an idiot, leaned against the table and gave her a very amused look. "So, head feeling okay?" Zilara shot him a death glare. "Shut up." Ryan chuckled. "You have to admit, that was legendary. I mean, who smacks themselves in the head to avoid a medical scan?" Zilara groaned. Desperate times, human. Desperate times. But she knew her victory was only temporary. The council had promised to check again soon. They were already suspicious, and if she wasn't back to normal by the next scan, her fate was sealed. Forced bonding. Lifelong mate assignment. Her entire career, her freedom, everything would be over. She turned to Ryan, deadly serious. "We have 6 hours before they scan me again. If you don't fix this by then." Ryan raised his hands. I know. No pressure, right?" She narrowed her eyes. "If you fail, I will personally make sure you suffer in ways no human has ever suffered before." Ryan gulped. Noted. The impossible task. Ryan got to work, running scans on Zilara's DNA, checking the remaining nutrient formula, and comparing it to human and Farron biology. Zilara sat impatiently, arms crossed, tapping her fingers against the counter. Finally, after what felt like forever, Ryan whistled. "Okay, I think I found the problem." She leaned forward, and Ryan pulled up a holographic display, pointing at a section of genetic data. Turns out, human nutrients activated a dormant gene sequence in Varens, one linked to rapid biological adaptation. Your body didn't just absorb the nutrients, it used them to supercharge a reproductive process that usually takes years. Zilara's stomach dropped. "So, what you're saying is," Ryan scratched his head, "your coconuts aren't just big because of a reaction. They've evolved." Zilara's jaw dropped. "UNAD me evolve." Ryan cringed. "Technically, you evolved yourself. My drink just, helped." Zilara grabbed the nearest metal tool and threatened to throw it at him. Ryan quickly raised his hands. Wait, there's good news." She paused. "Go on." Ryan cleared his throat. "Because this is an artificial acceleration, it might be reversible. If we introduce the right counteractive chemicals, we could trick your body into thinking this was all a mistake." Zilara slowly set down the tool. "You're saying you can fix it?" Ryan hesitated. "Might." Her eye twitched. "That is not the answer I wanted." Ryan held up a small vial filled with a glowing green liquid. "This should theoretically suppress the evolutionary effect and return you to normal." Zilara stared at it. "Theoretically?" Ryan grinned nervously. "Well, there's a 1% chance it could make things worse." Zilara's heart stopped. "Worse? How could it possibly get worse?" Ryan scratched his chin. "I mean, what if it triggers another reaction? Bigger coconuts. Maybe even full body changes." Zilara felt like the world was ending. She grabbed the vial. "I don't care. I'm taking it." Ryan held up a finger. Wait. We should run at least one." Gulp. Zilara drank the whole thing. Ryan's eyes widened. "Oh, you just, okay, whoa, no fear, Huey." She slammed the empty vial down. Fix me, human. Silence. Then, Zilara screamed. The side effect. Heat spread through her body twice as fast as before. Her skin tingled. Her muscles twitched. And then, boom. A sudden burst of energy exploded around her, knocking Ryan backward into the shelves. The entire lab shook. Sparks flew from one of the monitors. Ryan groaned, rubbing his head. Ugh. Okay, that's probably not a good sign. Zilara gasped for breath. She felt strange. Very strange. She stumbled toward the mirror. When she saw her reflection, her blood turned to ice. Her coconuts were still massive, but now her skin was glowing. Her eyes had turned completely white. And worst of all, she could feel something new inside her. Power. Ryan picked himself up, groaning. Okay, so, good news. Zilara turned to face him. The lab lights flickered. Her shadow stretched unnaturally behind her. Ryan blinked. Zilara, are you, okay? Zilara tilted her head. Her voice came out lower, almost echoing. I feel different. Ryan swallowed. Define different. Zilara slowly raised a hand. Crack. The air around her hand bent, as if reality itself had just glitched. Ryan took a step back. Okay, just a thought. But maybe we should not panic. Zilara turned back to the mirror. She could feel something awakening inside her. This wasn't just a reaction. This wasn't just a side effect. This was something else. Ryan grabbed a scanner and ran it over her. The screen glitched, showing random symbols before flashing a single word in red text. Unidentified evolution DTCTE. Ryan's face went pale. Zilara clenched her fists. I think I made a mistake. Ryan gulped. Yeah, you definitely made a mistake. Before either of them could react further, the lab doors suddenly slammed open. A Varan soldier stormed inside. Dr. Zilara, the Council demands your presence immediately. We have detected an unnatural energy surge. Then he saw her. His entire body froze. Zilara's glowing white eyes locked onto him. The soldier stumbled backward. By the stars, what have you become? Zilara had no answer. Neither did Ryan. Because at that moment, they both realized the truth. This wasn't just about her coconuts anymore. Something far, far bigger had just begun. On the run, Zilara's breathing was uneven. Her entire body felt like it was on fire, but not in a painful way. No, this was something else. She could feel the power inside her. It was humming beneath her skin, like an unstable star on the verge of exploding. Her once normal Varan biology had changed. Her coconuts were still massive. Her skin had taken on a soft, glowing hue, and her eyes. They were no longer the sharp yellow of her people. They were pure white. And the Varan soldier who had just barged into the lab. He was absolutely terrified. The tall warrior, clad in silver armor, took one step back, his eyes wide with disbelief. Dr. Zilara, what have you done? Zilara didn't know the answer. But she could feel it in her bones. Something inside her had awakened, and it was not normal. Ryan, standing behind her, muttered, Okay, I know I say this a lot, but this is bad. The soldier's hand darted to his communicator. Emergency alert. We have a crack. The air around Zilara shimmered. A split second before the communicator exploded in the soldier's hand. The warrior yelled in shock, clutching his burnt fingers. Zilara stared at her own hands. I did that, she whispered. Ryan, eyes wide, slowly nodded. Yeah, you did. The soldier regained his composure quickly. He drew his weapon, a sleek, glowing energy blade. Dr. Zilara, by order of the Varan High Council, you are to be detained immediately. Come willingly, and Zilara's mind raced. If she surrendered, she would be locked away. experimented on, or worse, forced into a permanent bonding ceremony before she could even understand what was happening to her body. She had one option. Run. She turned to Ryan. We need to leave. Now. Ryan didn't argue. The soldier lunged. Zalara's instincts kicked in. She raised her hand, and the very air around her seemed to bend. A wave of invisible energy erupted outward, hitting the soldier like a shockwave. He was lifted off the ground and thrown backward, crashing into the metal shelves with a loud clang. Ryan blinked. Holy. Okay, you're officially terrifying now. Zalara grabbed his arm and dragged him toward the exit. Movie. The lab's security alarms blared. Unauthorized energy surge detected. Lockdown protocols engaged. Zalara and Ryan burst into the hallway and came face to face with two more guards. The guards froze at the sight of her. They took in her glowing skin, her eerie white eyes, and the lingering crackle of energy around her. One of them took a cautious step back. She's changed, he whispered. The other guard, more disciplined, raised his weapon. Dr. Zalara, stand down. Zalara's heart pounded. She didn't want to hurt anyone, but she would not let them take her. Ryan whispered, I really hope you've got a plan, because I am very squishy and very not bulletproof. Zalara didn't answer. She focused. Somehow, she knew what to do. She clenched her fists. The energy inside her responded. The hallway lights flickered. The very air hummed. And then, boom! The metal floor beneath the guard's feet suddenly shifted, as if gravity itself had just glitched. The two guards were yanked upward, smashing into the ceiling. Ryan's jaw dropped. Okay, that is so not normal. Zalara grabbed his wrist. Go. They sprinted down the corridor, alarms blaring behind them. Escape route. The hangar. Zalara's mind raced as she pulled Ryan through the hallways of the research facility. She knew one thing. If they stayed, they were doomed. Their only hope was Ryan's ship. They had to get to the hangar. But the council wouldn't just let them leave. And she was right. As they turned a corner, a massive security gate slammed down in front of them. The hallway sealed shut. Ryan skidded to a stop. Well, that's inconvenient. A voice echoed from the speakers. Dr. Zalara, you are now classified as an unstable genetic anomaly. You will surrender, or we will use lethal force. Zalara's hands trembled. Not with fear. With power. She looked at Ryan. Stay behind me. Ryan stepped back immediately. No arguments here. Zalara closed her eyes. She reached deep into herself, into this new part of her that she didn't understand yet. She focused on the security gate. The metal was thick, reinforced, nearly unbreakable. But it didn't matter, because Zalara had become something stronger. She raised her hands and pushed. The air rippled. The security gate folded inward like paper, crumpling under an invisible force. Ryan let out a low whistle. Okay, I take it back. This is awesome. Zalara didn't waste time celebrating. Movie. They rushed through the opening and burst into the hangar. The final obstacle, the council's elite guard. Zalara barely had time to process the huge open hangar, Ryan's ship waiting in the distance, because standing between them and their escape was a full squad of council elite guards. And leading them was Commander Varish. His sharp yellow eyes locked onto Zalara. You are no longer Farran, he said coldly. You are something else. He stepped forward, drawing a massive energy blade. The council will not let you leave. Zalara's pulse pounded. Behind her, Ryan muttered, You know, I really hate that guy. Varish raised his blade. The squad moved into position. Zalara took a deep breath. She didn't know what she had become. She didn't know what she was capable of. But she knew one thing. She was not going down without a fight. She stepped forward, hands crackling with energy, and met Varish's gaze. If the council won't let me leave, The air trembled around her. Then I'll break through them. The shocking truth about Varens. The air inside the hangar hummed with tension. Zilara stood with her hands clenched into fists, raw energy crackling around her like invisible lightning. Across from her, Commander Varish and the Council's elite guards blocked the only path to freedom. Behind her, Ryan muttered, "Okay, so just checking. The plan is still run, right? Not die in a blaze of glory." Zilara's glowing white eyes locked onto Varish's cold yellow ones. "No," she said, her voice calm but deadly. "The plan is break through them." Ryan sighed. "I was afraid you'd say that." Varish's lips curled into a grim smirk. "Your arrogance is misplaced, Dr. Zilara." He slowly raised his massive energy blade, its edge burning with blue plasma. "You think because you've changed, you are above the Council's will." Zilara's body pulsed with power. "I don't think I'm above the Council." She took a step forward, the very ground beneath her feet cracking slightly from the pressure. "I think I don't need them anymore." The fight begins. Varish didn't waste time. He launched forward like a bullet, his energy blade slashing downward. Zilara's body moved on instinct. She raised her hand, and the very air around her warped. Killang! Varish's sword stopped midair, frozen just inches from her skull. His eyes widened. Impossible. Zilara's energy surged outward. A powerful shockwave blasted from her body, hurling Varish backward like a ragdoll. The elite guards charged at once. Blasters fired. Swords slashed. But Zilara was beyond them now. With a mere flick of her wrist, the blaster bolts curved midair, spiraling away before they could touch her. A guard swung his blade, only for it to bend backward, as if hitting an invisible barrier. Ryan, hiding behind a crate, peeked out. "Okay, Suu, do you even need me at this point? Because it kinda looks like you've got this covered." Zilara's lips curled into a small smirk. She lifted both hands, and the guards were yanked off their feet, suspended midair like puppets, their weapons ripped from their hands, floating above them. A deep silence filled the hangar. Varish staggered back to his feet, his breathing heavy. His soldiers hung helplessly in the air, completely at Zilara's mercy. For the first time, there was fear in his eyes. "What are you?" he whispered. Zilara lowered her hands, and the guards dropped to the ground, unconscious. She turned back to Varish. "I was hoping you could tell me. The secret buried in history." Varish's jaw tightened. "You don't know, do you?" Zilara frowned. "Know what?" Varish slowly stood, wiping the blood from his lip. "You think this transformation was an accident? A mutation?" His yellow eyes darkened. "You're wrong." Ryan stepped up beside Zilara, arms crossed. "Okay, mystery man, how about you stop being cryptic and actually explain?" Varish exhaled sharply. "The truth was hidden centuries ago. Even I was not supposed to know. But as a commander, I had access to restricted council records." Zilara's hands clenched. "Get to the point." Varish stared at her. "You, Zilara, are not an anomaly." The words hit like a hammer. Varish took a slow step forward. "Varens were not always as we are now. Long ago, our ancestors were created." Zilara's breath caught in her throat. Created? By who? Varish's gaze shifted. Ryan froze. A realization clicked in his brain. "By humans," he said quietly. Zilara's stomach dropped. "That's impossible." Varish's voice was cold. "Your genetic material is not fully Varen. It never was. Your body reacted to human nutrients because it was programmed to. The reason your transformation happened so easily," he nodded toward Ryan, "is because your DNA recognizes him." Zilara's mind reeled. That couldn't be true. It didn't make sense. The Varen people had evolved naturally. They had history, civilization, culture. But deep inside her, something felt right about what he was saying. Ryan scratched his head. Sue, let me get this straight. Some ancient humans engineered Varens, left, and never came back. Varish's jaw tightened. We do not know why they left, but the council feared that if the truth was revealed, it would break our people. His expression darkened. And now, you, Zilara, are proof that our past is a lie. The council's true plan. Zilara shook her head. If the council knew this, why hide it? Varish's eyes burned with something cold. Because knowledge is power, and power must be controlled. Zilara's heart pounded. They were never going to let me go free, were they? She whispered. Varish's silence was her answer. Ryan sighed. Yeah, okay. I hate them even more now. A new choice. Zilara exhaled slowly. So, what happens now? Varish gave her a long, unreadable look. Then, to her shock, he dropped his sword. The metal clattered onto the floor. I have seen enough, he said quietly. I know now that the council is wrong. Zilara's eyes widened. Ryan raised a hand. Wait, so, does that mean you're not going to kill us? Varish smirked slightly. No, human. I am not. He turned back to Zilara. You have the power to change our people's fate. The question is. His eyes locked onto hers. What will you do with it? Zilara stared at him. She had spent her entire life believing the council was right, that they were protectors of knowledge. But now she saw the truth. She wasn't just some scientist caught in an experiment gone wrong. She was living proof of a hidden past, and whether she liked it or not, she had just become the most powerful being in the Farron Empire. Her hands tightened into fists. I think, she said slowly, it's time the council got a wake-up call. Ryan grinned. Ooh, I like where this is going. Varish nodded. Then you'll need allies. Zilara smirked. Good thing I just took down your best soldiers. Varish let out a chuckle. That you did. He stepped aside. The hangar is yours. Go. Zilara glanced at Ryan. He gave her a thumbs up. To be clear, we're totally taking your ship. Varish sighed. Yes, human. I assumed as much. Zilara turned toward the waiting starship. She didn't know where this journey would take her. But one thing was clear. This wasn't just about escape anymore. This was about changing everything. The ultimate gamble. The starship engines roared to life, casting a blinding blue glow across the hangar floor. Zilara stood at the open ramp, her glowing white eyes scanning the vast docking bay. The unconscious guards lay where she had left them. And Varish, once her greatest enemy, now stood beside her as an ally. Ryan tapped the ship's controls, running a last systems check. All right, engines are prepped. Shields are at 50%, though I'd really prefer 100, and we are one step away from pissing off an entire empire. Sue, we're sure about this, right? Zilara clenched her fists, feeling the power humming inside her. The knowledge Varish had revealed still rang in her head. Herons were not naturally evolved. They were engineered by humans. And now she was the living proof of that hidden past. She turned to Varish. You said the council feared this truth. That's why they wanted to control me. Varish nodded. If the people knew, if they learned that they were created, not born, their entire way of life would crumble. The High Council thrives on control. If they lose the people's belief, they lose their power. Ryan snorted. Ah, classic government paranoia. Zilara's gaze hardened. Then we need to expose them. Varish sighed. You make it sound simple, but the council controls every information network. The moment you broadcast something, they'll shut it down. Zilara smirked. Then we don't use their networks. Ryan's head snapped up. Wait, you're thinking of the old relays, aren't you? Varish frowned. The what? Ryan grinned. Oh, buddy, you're gonna love this. The old relays. A risky plan. Deep beneath the Varan capital city, forgotten by most, were the old relays, Ancient human technology abandoned long ago, buried under layers of secrecy. Most Farrens thought they were just myths. But Ryan knew better. They're still active, Ryan explained, just in deep standby mode. If we can reactivate even one, it will override every modern transmission signal and send a message across the entire star system. The Council won't be able to stop it. Varish crossed his arms. And what, exactly, are you planning to broadcast? Zilara lifted her hand. Her palm glowed softly, crackling with the unstable energy running through her veins. The truth. Ryan let out a low whistle. Yeah, okay. I'd watch that. Varish still looked skeptical. And what makes you think we'll even make it to the relays before the Council catches us? As if on cue, the entire hangar shook. A booming voice echoed from the loudspeakers. Dr. Zilara, you are hereby declared a rogue genetic anomaly. Stand down immediately or face extermination. Zilara rolled her eyes. Wow. Real subtle. Guys. Ryan frantically hit the ship's controls. Yeah. Time to go. Varish turned to Zilara. You realize, if we do this, we'll be making enemies of the entire Council. There's no coming back from this. Zilara stepped onto the ship's ramp, her glowing gaze burning with determination. I was never planning to go back. The doors slammed shut behind them as the ship blasted out of the hangar. The chase begins. The moment they hit the sky, alarms screamed across the city. Varish pointed at the radar. Council ships, 4 of them, already in pursuit. Ryan muttered a string of curses as he yanked the controls. Why is it always 4? Why not 1? Or none? Zilara braced herself. How long until we reach the relays? Ryan's hands flew over the console. About 5 minutes, but we'll be space dust in 2 if they catch up. Varish grabbed a weapons console. Then we make sure they don't. A battle in the skies. The first shots came fast. Laser fire streaked past the ship, scorching the air. Ryan jerked the controls, narrowly avoiding a direct hit. Holy. Zilara, any chance you can do your weird new powers thing from here? Zilara took a deep breath. She didn't know how far her abilities reach, but she had to try. She closed her eyes and focused. The energy inside her responded. Suddenly, she could feel the enemy ships, their engines, their shields, their pilots. They were like threads in a web. She reached out and pulled. Boom! One of the pursuing ships jerked violently, its engines failing midair. It spiraled out of control, crashing into a nearby tower. Ryan's mouth dropped open. Okay, that was ridiculously cool. Varish barely had time to react. Can you do that again? Zilara's hand shook. Maybe, but it's draining. Ryan turned the ship sharply. Then let's make this quick. The old relays, awakening the past. They reached the relay site, a massive underground vault, hidden beneath layers of rock and forgotten tunnels. Ryan set the ship down. We don't have much time. Let's move. Inside, the relay chamber was dust-covered but intact, a massive holographic tower, ancient symbols glowing faintly along its edges. Varish ran his hand over the control panel. It's still functional. Ryan cracked his knuckles. Then let's light this baby up. Zilara placed her glowing hand against the central console. The moment she did, the entire relay came to life. A deep hum filled the air. Lights flared, ancient scripts flickering to life. Then, Dodu AR and AN. Unauthorized activation detected. The entire city went dark for half a second. And then, every screen, every device, every transmission channel across the entire star system was hijacked. The Council's control was gone. The broadcast that changed everything. A holographic image of Zilara flickered to life across the planet. Her voice rang clear and strong. To every Farren listening. For centuries, we have lived under the rule of a council that has kept us in the dark. We were told we were chosen, born from the stars, that we had no connection to outsiders. That was a lie. We were created, engineered, by humans. The council knew. They hid the truth because they feared what we would become. But they were right to be afraid, because we are more than they ever imagined. Today, the truth is yours. What happens next is up to us. Asterisk, asterisk. And across the entire planet, people watched. They listened, and the world changed. The final stand. Zilara pulled her hand away from the relay. She turned to Varish. "What happens now?" she asked. Varish smiled. "Now, the council comes for us." Ryan sighed. "Great, and here I was hoping we'd just go grab lunch." Zilara smirked. She didn't know what came next, but she knew one thing. This was only the beginning.